springtime in Alaska. Here, the story of climate change, cause and effect, is played out in America's last great wilderness. On one hand, George Bush is pressing hard to open up a wildlife refuge to oil drilling. On the other, the burning of fossil fuels is a direct source of global warming, and rising temperatures are already affecting the Arctic people.
The weather really changed. Every winter we have like mild weather.
When we were kicked, it was cold. Wintertime, it's really cold. When the weather was cold, some dogs used to freeze.
Our parents used to have really warm gear. I remember my father, my late father, he had long caribou legging boots about this high. And us children, we all had fur clothes too. People don't use that kind of fur clothing that much anymore.
Winter temperatures here in the Alaskan interior have risen by 4 degrees centigrade since the 60s. That's 10 times more quickly than the rest of the world. For the people of Huslia, climate change is not a distant threat. This remote native community is already seeing physical changes to their landscape.
Are the same.
Wolves are
taunted, exhausted, and then finally killed.
We used to paddle down with a canoe.
The bullfight
during the summer to get to our camp. No, we got to carry our canoe now. It's all over. It's not only right here. It's this whole area.
If you fly around and do pay attention real close, you can see how the lakes are shrinking just by looking at the receding shoreline. Because the trees used to be on the edge of the lakes, but now there's fields from the trees to the lake.
As the frozen ground beneath the lakes thaws, it's believed that the water simply drains away. The disappearing lakes are taking the wildlife with them and threatening the traditional way of life.
We used to hunt around here. Muskrat, ducks, stuff. But now there's no water, so there's just no fish. Nothing. It's just everything just running out. Yeah, every year it's just getting harder and harder and harder to live up here.
Some of these good geese hunting spots, they're not good no more. Place dried up.
The native people's observations are backed by scientists working at the University of Alaska in the main city of Fairbanks. Here, an international team of climate experts is led by Professor Gunther Weller.
As the climate warms, snow and ice melts now. So you have snow and ice melting, more solar radiation being absorbed, greater heating in effect melts more snow, so this positive feedback loop is actually one of the main features why we have an amplification of the climate in the high latitudes.
About 80% of Alaska is built on a layer of frozen ground up to half a mile thick, the permafrost. It hasn't melted since before the last ice age. But in the last 30 years, the icy layer has warmed by about 1.5 degrees centigrade, causing havoc as the ground beneath the city melts.
And when that happens, the house collapses and has to be abandoned eventually. This has happened along here in this neighborhood all the time. And 3 or 4 houses which used to be here are no longer here because of this effect. But you can see how it has sagged in the middle there, and will continue to do so if more ice melts out. And eventually, if it really gets very bad, the house might have to be abandoned.
See a shim, this piece of wood here? That's a shim. It's elevating that leg to make it kind of level here.
This, we have to hold it like this, because if we want like 2 cups of water, like if we do it like that, it'll like go like that. We have to hold it up so it's level.
Repairing permafrost damage is costing Alaskans about $35 million a year. New houses now come with adjustable legs.
Unless we do something about the use of fossil fuel, then the climate impacts will become worse and will be a real serious problem that we will have to take care of one way or another. I think I would take this very seriously.
The US government does not share this concern, having recently pulled out of the Kyoto Agreement to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Alaska already produces a quarter of the country's oil output, and North America's largest field is here at Prudhoe Bay on the north slope. 95% of this area is already open for drilling. Now George Bush wants to open up the last 5%. The coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Environmentalists call it America's Serengeti. Oil lobbyists like Cam Toohey refer to it as ANWR.
We do offer a tremendous supply of domestic oil, and we can produce it under the strictest environmental rules in the U.S. And it comes from an area that has been set aside for its oil and gas potential, and it comes from an area that very few people are going to visit because of its remoteness and harsh environment.
The 19 million acre wildlife refuge is also home to 256 people, the Inupiat Eskimos of Kaktovik, who subsist on the bears, seals, muskox, and 3 whales per season.
Yep, this is some mighty fine tasting stuff. See, we cut the blubber off. You know, it's just too fat.
A local survey revealed that 80% of the population are in favor of the oil industry's plans.
We'll get our school funding instead of being cut. We'll have money for the children so that they can have better education. You know, we have it good right now, but they need better teachers. We'll have better health care clinic over here. Mainly jobs for the young people.
Tax revenue from existing oil fields already pays for many local amenities. The oil industry is cautiously welcomed here.
Yeah, I'd like to see oil drilling again more. You know, I think it'd be all right for Alaska or for this town also. Give us jobs, what we all need. You know, get money, buy stuff you need. Everything costs so much.
The wildlife refuge debate has sharply divided the Alaskan native people. 200 miles south of Kaktovik, the Gwich'in Indians of Arctic Village are adamantly opposed to the new drilling.
We don't want drilling and don't support it there because we have a very close and spiritual relationship with the caribou.
We're caribou people, and our life is connected with our caribou way of life because it's our clothing, it's our story, it's our song, it's our dance, and it's our food, and that's who we are.
Every year, 130,000 of these North American reindeer converge on the coastal plains to calve. This is where Bush plans to drill for oil.
There's really only one suitable area for calving that has a combination of low numbers of predators and good forage condition during the time when the calves are born, and that's the coastal plain of the Arctic Wildlife Refuge. If caribou were to be displaced from there, they would undoubtedly be forced into areas where they'd have lower calf survival and higher death rates.
No, there are no scientific studies that support that the herd is going to be hurt or the herd has experienced any problem in the Prudhoe Bay area. Sure, there's a shifting of where the herd walks and such, but it has not affected the number of animals nor the health of the herd.
Oil lobbyists provide videos of caribou grazing happily next to pipelines, but the Gwich'in believe their way of life is threatened.
We think to protect the porcupine caribou birthplace will keep the caribou healthy, and in return it'll keep us healthy and connected to who we are.
We don't really see ourselves as separate, you know. We're not looking down upon the land and animals and seeing it as different than us. We're a part of the system that exists up here, you know. I think most people in the world maybe would consider where we live out here full-time camping or something, you know. But even to us, you know, it's just what, you know, the way we live, and we're happy with that.
Why they want to come up here and jeopardizing the way of life of Eskimos, Indians? It's not worth it. How do I feel about it? No oil drilling.
I don't think there should be drilling in the Arctic Wildlife Refuge. I think the United States is a rich nation with plenty of resources, and we don't have to go into our last wild places for more energy.
The politicians and leaders in the oil industry have talked with us and pretty much told us that if we decided to support their efforts in drilling in ANWR, that we would benefit from it economically. But that doesn't appeal to our people. We're not interested in money.
Is it all-wheel drive all the time, or is it shift in and out of
No, this is a full-time four-wheel drive system. It's like the Audi.
Every Alaskan citizen receives a yearly dividend from oil profits. Last year it was almost $2,000. Most are in favor of plans to start drilling in the refuge.
Oh yeah, you betcha. Develop it. It will. It'll happen. Definitely.
I'm actually for ANWR. I think we should pump our own oil. We have it. I don't think we should get it from Iraq or Iran or wherever we get it from.
It'll bring more money, but still, the wildlife, they're gonna have to move them to another, somewhere else, another habitat or whatever. So I'm against it, actually.
I'm a big supporter of going ahead and utilizing all the natural resources that we have available to us.
The average US citizen causes the emission of twice as much carbon dioxide as the average European. The American economy revolves around big cars like these sports utility vehicles, powered by cheap fuel.
Until we either change our lifestyles or we come up with some other kind of source of energy, then we're pretty much stuck with what we've got on hand, and oil is what we've got on hand.
If you produced more energy-sufficient SUVs, like the one we're driving here now, I have to admit, we would, in 3 years, save as much energy as ANWR will ever produce.
The oil industry has brought prosperity to Alaska in terms of jobs, trade, and cash. But every barrel of oil sent south and burnt comes back to Alaska as damage to the delicate balance of Arctic life. On Alaska's west coast, the village of Shishmaref sits on an island just 1/4 of a mile wide. For 7 months of the year, the island is locked in by sea ice, frozen all the way to Russia. The Inupiat Eskimos who live here are at the sharp end of the Western world's dependence on fossil fuels.
The currents have changed, ice conditions have changed, and then the freeze up of the Chukchi Sea out here has really changed too, to where we used to freeze up like in the last part of October. We didn't freeze until around Christmas time, I believe. That ocean out there should be, under normal conditions, 4 feet thick. I went out, the ocean ice was only 1 foot thick.
My mother, she made me a pair of polar bear skin mucklucks these top are Wolverine. There's reindeer hair and sealskin on the bottom. These are excellent for extremely cold weathers, like for 80 below, almost 100 below zero. The feet never get cold.
Life here isn't just adapted to the cold, it depends on it. The thick blanket of sea ice is the village's hunting ground. Without it, food is hard to find.
While we're waiting for the shore ice to freeze up for subsistence purposes, all the game is traveling east. We can't get out there. And it is affecting the subsistence lifestyle of this community, because last summer we covered thousands of miles by boats, trying to get walrus, nothing, except for one boat. Found one walrus.
It's getting harder and harder each year to for a subsistence way of life, especially when you got to go further out. Springtime after you break up, and we burn a whole bunch of gas, and getting harder and harder each year.
Put the shell in there, put it on fire, and then shoot.
With less sea ice to protect it, the village is becoming more and more vulnerable to the increasingly violent weather.
The storms they're getting more frequent. The winds are getting stronger, the water is getting higher, and it's noticeable to everybody in town. It just kind of scares you in your body.
After a ferocious storm in 1997, 3 houses toppled into the ocean when the fragile ground beneath them gave way. 9 others had to be relocated by jacking them onto sledges and pulling them to higher ground. Over the last 40 years, the villagers say the coastline has receded by about 1,500 feet.
We're like in a panic mode because of exactly how much ground we're losing. If our airport, our runway gets flooded out, eaten away, there goes our evacuation by plane.
Relocating the whole village is forecast to cost about $50 million, and talks are underway. Meanwhile, the villagers sit and wait for the storm that will destroy their island.
I'd hate to be here when it hits, but yet if my kids are here, I'm going to have to force to stay here with my kids. We can't predict these storms. We can't tell what's going to happen tomorrow, in other words. We just take it day by day here.